Hello everyone and welcome back to Always Watching. Today we're discussing the new disturbing Netflix documentary, The Man with 1,000 Kids. So briefly, the documentary unpacks the story of a Dutch sperm donor accused of fathering thousands of children around the world. It interviews a number of couples as well as individuals affected by the scam, as well as experts who give us insight into this unregulated world of sperm donation. We don't find out that much about Jonathan. Instead, the documentary is interested in unpacking how someone like Jonathan could get away with a crime like this worldwide for so long. I thought the editing was absurd and spot on. The documentary repeatedly emphasizes the fact that this man was indeed... I think this documentary is well worth a watch. I personally did not know how unregulated this industry was. A lot of clinics rely on the donor's word before accepting a donation, and many of these clinics are willing to overlook red flags to meet their quotas. I did like the variety of couples interviewed. Some were same-sex couples, some were couples that couldn't have children, and some were just women that desperately wanted to have children but just haven't found a partner. And this was really a last-ditch resort. Like, this was like desperation. When deciding what they were looking for in a sperm donor, their dream father only required blonde hair and blue eyes. Like, their emphasis on what the donor looked like, I think really got under my skin. I'm not sure about clinics themselves, like how thorough they are, but if you're relying on a private donation, then I would think that you would want to consider something other than his physical appearance. Like, what is this man about? What is his medical history? And it's not quite clear how these women were vetting if this man was suitable other than what he looked like. Some of these couples did kind of rub me the wrong way. Some of them even noted how weird Jonathan was, but they dismissed it by saying, well, I guess you have to be a bit weird to be in this business. But I'm like, that's not really a justification to overlook the fact that this guy is a creep. And again, other than his physical appearance, like, what else were you basing your decision on? Luckily for them, these children came out happy and healthy, and they got this child that they have always dreamed about until they realized they were not the only one. To make matters worse, it seems like not all of these children may have been fathered by Jonathan. He had like a partner in crime, and we don't really know much about this partner in crime other than the scar on his forehead, which is really to emphasize that no one would want to procreate with him. Like, I just thought that was very, like, I kept waiting for more information, but we never got it. And apparently these two men would go as far as mixing semen together and try to guess who the father would be. Jonathan, again, we don't find out much about Jonathan, his background, where he comes from, but from what we know, he travels all around the world, impregnating and scamming women. On top of donating, he also offers to sleep with these women as well to fast track the process. And one woman interviewed really got under my skin. She described sleeping with Jonathan because she thought he was cute and she didn't mind. And apparently this man opened up about everything to the point where his partner in crime actually came over. And she was very well aware of what these men were doing and yet told absolutely no one. And I'm not sure if she's just that down bad, but I had questions for this lady as well. And I think the weird thing about Jonathan is that he was always available. Everyone describes him as always texting immediately and responding. And I think for Jonathan and people who are doing this type of thing, it doesn't really occur to them that they will be caught. And even if they are caught, I don't think they don't think they will be held accountable, just because there's really no law or there's currently no way to deal with individuals like this. The only thing we know about Jonathan is that he has a YouTube channel. And at face value, his YouTube channel seems fine, just a young man traveling. And actually, this channel convinced some of these couples that this was the right man. Again, they thought it was a bit odd, and maybe had they taken time to listen to what he was saying instead of what he looked like, they may, maybe some red flags would have come up. One of the questions the documentary asks is like, what is Jonathan's motivations? And it's not clear how much money he's getting out of this. Like, is he just giving his sperm away for free? Is he charging? Like, that was really unclear But based on how extensively he travels and how many kids he has around the world, I don't think it's about money. Like, this dude wants power. He is responsible for potentially thousands of offspring around the world, children that will later come looking for him. When they examined the YouTube channel, they found that it was low-key indoctrination. So much of this channel was about your ancestry and finding your roots. And when these children do look for their biological father, he won't be that hard to find. And based on these videos, they might want to go and meet him. They might want to get to know him. And so the first two documentaries really focus on Jonathan. And at first it seems like a rare incident, like, oh, this is just like really the exception to the rule. But that might not be the case. Jonathan might just be the tip of the iceberg. And by episode 3, the documentary tries to take like a wider look. And we realize he's not the only one. There are groups of men that literally travel around the world competing with each other to see who will have the most children. One of the most disturbing parts of the documentary is when they went to Kenya. Apparently some countries, like, the demand is so high that they will actually fly out donors. And one donor describes being milked like a cow, but he didn't mind and hopes to bleach Africa one day. And I think what again got really under my skin is the fact that they're not looking just to have children. A lot of these couples want a specific looking child, and these sperm clinics are flying out individuals who meet a certain criteria, not like anyone who's willing to give out sperm. I think it's insane. Like, when it comes to having a family and having children, like, there's nothing wrong with wanting your own biological child. Like, you could adopt as well, but I get it. Like, you want a child that's from you. Like, I don't have a problem with that. However, what I do have a problem with is, like, picture perfect family life, like, that a lot of these couples seem to want to create. Like, they wanted their family to look a certain way, like almost like these children were accessories. I think they were so obsessed with that they really overlooked a lot of obvious red flags. Because if this individual has all these desired traits that people want, then wouldn't you assume that other people would also want this donor? Like, wouldn't it raise some red flags? According to one expert who was interviewed in the documentary, these men are like a cartel. Like, they make it their business to travel and impregnate women. Depending on how deep this goes, the odds of these children meeting each other and falling in love, let's say, is incredibly high. One of the parts of the documentary that stood out at me is when all the children meet and they have this immediate connection. And this connection can be mistaken for love if they don't know that they're half-siblings. Now, I was surprised to know that Jonathan was actually punished. However, his punishment was very limited. I think he's fined, and if he does it again, like, he might go to jail or something along these lines. However, for a crime like this, you really need to snip it. You need a vasectomy. Like, you need to tie this man's thing all the way up. And I think when it comes to controlling men, that's already very difficult. Now, trying to limit a man's reproductive rights in the world we live in currently is like next to impossible. And until we get to that point, I'm not sure how they would monitor someone like Jonathan. Like, how would you actually make sure that he's not donating any more sperm? Like, logistically, it just seems like a nightmare. Now, I think Netflix documentaries definitely put you on blast. Like, it definitely helps. And also shows like 90 Day Fiancé. For anyone familiar with 90 Day Fiancé, one of the creeps highlighted is a man named Kyle Gordy. And there are a number of deep dives on him on YouTube describing how he's basically another Jonathan. He travels all around the world, impregnating women. And the way that they view these women and the way that they use this industry to take advantage of them is really disturbing. And outside of physical appearance, like, how do you know they don't have like a genetic defect? Or like, who's making sure that these people are even safe, like they should be donating? Because it doesn't seem like the sperm clinics, like, their process is all that thorough. Then again, it might depend on the sperm clinic and it might depend on the country. Now, the number of women who want to have children without a partner has definitely increased. I think with technology, it's become even easier than it was like 30 years ago, 40 years ago. However, because it's such a new field, it's very unregulated. Like, this whole thing is just kind of the wild, wild west. So individuals really have to be careful when pursuing this as an avenue, and really do your due diligence, because you can't rely on the clinics and you certainly can't rely on the word of the donor. I did appreciate this documentary because in a way it did hold not just these sperm clinics and these criminals, but also the people looking for donors accountable. Because one of the reasons that Jonathan got away with it is because he had all these allegedly desired traits. And for that, people just overlooked so many red flags. I think that's very telling of the world we live in today, because people are more concerned with what things look like than what they actually are. And again, if you're pursuing this avenue, that's fine. There's nothing wrong with wanting your child to look a certain way, look like you, that's cool. But please base your decision on something other than what they look like. Maybe do a background check and make sure that he's not out of his mind. So overall, well worth a watch, a little bit triggering. You guys let me know what you think, and until next time.